Hello, welcome to May 7th, 2022. I'm Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation. An activity I do every morning shortly after waking up to remember my life objectives and principles and to see how I did applying them last night, and to plan for the coming day. So first, last night and yesterday. I think I would have slept all right last night, except my dogs were getting up. Both of them in turn. First, Ollie got up around 3, and then Rudy got up around 4. They had to go outside, which I knew was kind of the case because we upset their routine yesterday. The day was a jumbled mess yesterday, for me at least. And as a result, the dogs got their walk earlier than they did, and neither of them seemed interested in going out again after that, which meant that they would have to go a long time without going outdoors. You get the idea. So no surprise they both had to get up in turn to go out, even though I offered them the chance to go out earlier before bed. So anyway, so that kind of, my sleep is a little bit jarred, and today's a day of chores, and I'm not looking for, it's a Saturday, but I'm not looking forward to. I wonder if weekends were always like that. Like, I kind of idealized. I mean, we all know that there was never any idyllic time. We kind of idealize the past and think that weekends were fun, but they must have been the same. People had to mow the lawn and clean the house, and well, back in the old days, the housewife would clean the house, right, during the week. So Dad would have to mow the lawn, but Sunday drive, that's what you do. You go for a Sunday drive. So the thing that got me yesterday was, it was my day off, but I had to do the registration on Emily's car. And given that it's over 8 years, it's 8 years old this year, it had to get smog checked. So that means I had to do 2 trips to the DMV, plus a trip to the smog to get the smog. And that really threw me off, that whole thing. And then in the evening we did an event at a local community thing, which I didn't enjoy so much. It was it felt too much like gratuitous community participation. It was the first such event for Menifee. They had at the local park down by City Hall an event, and having worked in the city, I can just picture what it was like. The activity of planning it, vendors, and little booths and music and lots of food, of course. And they did a good job, and it was in a nice place, and the weather was nice, especially in the evening part. I did an axe toss. Altogether, it was well done. I just wasn't in the mood for that. I did a good job of keeping my equanimity, I think. I don't think my wife and daughter, I mean, they would have known that it wasn't they would have known because almost all the booths were for women. I mean, they're, jewelry and perfumes and soap and stuff like that. And so I just went, and instead of what I would have done, and I did catch myself doing this for a minute, would have stood, back in the day, I would have stood, not to send a message, but I just wouldn't have had a better idea what to do. Stood somewhere, stared into the middle distance, and I would stand there. In the past, I would have stood there, and I would have thought, this is not nice. I'm sending a clear signal that I'm not enjoying this and I want to go home. But that's not the clear signal I wanted to spend. I just couldn't figure anything else to do. This time, though, there was a nice open grassy area, and I thought, I'll go lay in the grass, and the music was good, and I'll lay in the grass and listen to the music, and that's exactly what I did, and that was pleasant. I thought big thoughts. I watched the children play, and I thought about Richard Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene, and I was thinking about how the DNA within the children passed on to them by their parents, who in turn received it from their grandparents, etc., etc. That's the kids were running and playing, and I was thinking it's really the DNA that's just got these vehicles that it uses to replicate and propagate itself, and to keep it diverse and to allow new features to just come into play. So I enjoyed myself with, I think that's a big thought. It wasn't my thought, it's a thought that I got from reading books. And I thought about Dr. Johnson and James Boswell and Samuel Johnson, and how they would sit and just pull notions and ideas from the air to introduce to the company. Let's talk about this. I thought how nice that must have been. Although I know that for Johnson and Boswell, both, there was never really any better time. Both of them suffered a lot in their life from what they called melancholy. So even though they were, well, at least certainly Boswell was a man of privilege. Johnson, you could say so in later life with his pension from the king. Certainly education and society and et cetera, et cetera. Nevertheless, life they found life to be a humbug. I would say that's what yesterday was, kind of. I was in, that festival was a humbug. But, so, that's the principle of nature, of course. The nature of that, the nature of my reaction to that event was predictable. I've been there before. But I think I did an admirable job of good emotional reactions. One of my objectives. I would rather have not have been at that festival. Yet my family were enjoying themselves. So I did a good job of finding a niche and enjoying it so that they could enjoy it. Yeah. Life may sometimes be a humbug, but it doesn't mean we have to say bah humbug. All right, let's do, how did I do with my my criteria? I made a video yesterday. I made a journal entry, and I read at least 10 pages. So I get another circle. One more, and I earn another green circle on the death calendar. Let's do the good life. I'm going to do a lightning round this morning. I'm not quite feeling it this morning. Just not feeling good. It's a rough Saturday. And I've got a lot to do. A lot of chores. And we're out of everything, so a whole lot of shopping. I wrote in my journal that I'm just tired of this whole system. I'm looking forward to quiet and peaceful days of my own, to not be a part of all this. You're just weary of the game, right? Wearied of the game. My 7 objectives are as follows. 1, to be always ready to die. Have everything in a settled state, ready to go. My affairs, my relationships, and my life's work. And they are. 2, to make good and effective use of my time. To not let my days pass by unnumbered, or at least unreflected, or at least not live deliberately. 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. These 7 and 30. 4. To cultivate good emotional reactions. To become a person who reacts well to the good days, the bad days, and the mediocre days. And I think I did. Yesterday was a mediocre day, and yet I reacted well. I'm sure my wife could tell that I was tired, but I didn't let on unduly that all I wanted to do was secret away to my chair with my book. I played the game. Next is to perform good actions, just to do good things throughout the day. And then to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities. So I live within my available means. I want to use the word means. It means in the right word. Live within my limits. Not live within my limits. I can push outside the limits, but I should not expect success outside my limits. Yeah. And then finally, to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately, and in a considered manner. Because those are the 7 things that I want to live, the way I want to live, the things, the day-to-days. Now let's talk about the 30 principles. These are: 1, the principle of war, to always be fighting against what I think is true. 2, the principle of reason, and the 3 sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt, which are how I approach the world. 3, the homunculus, the suggestion that we don't have a soul, but we do get a little consciousness for a little while. A little consciousness, whatever that is. 4, the Anchorhold, the idea that the homunculus is trapped within our heads, can't go anywhere, and will die with us. 5, the home of good and evil. Right and wrong are opinions, ideas, nothing more than notions that we hold in our head and that we kind of swear allegiance to, in a way. They are subjective at their core. 6, the principle of purpose. No? Yeah, purpose. And my purpi are biology, virtue, and mission. Biology is the getting of my genes into the next generation, fulfilling my mandate as a biological organism, which is to reproduce. Sounds so clinical. But virtue is to be a virtuous man. This is capital. This is on top of that, right? And this, my main purpose is to reproduce. Maybe my only purpose. But if I can be a virtuous man, I can make a better community and better society, and that's a good thing. And then mission, our whatever it is that I want to do in life, which for me was the having of my great life adventures and the recording of my story going along, and the resulting good life me creed. Now next is atomic principle. That's number 7, I think. Everything is made of bits and pieces, falling to pieces, just like me. You too. And the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature. Like it's the nature of me to get a little iffy at festivals and fairs, even in Japan. Dr. Johnson even commented on it. The time that a man needs to most be able to withdraw within himself is when he's in a crowd. I looked at the faces of the other people at that festival, particularly the men, and I know I wasn't the only one. Why do we do it then? Oh, we do it for the kids. That's why we do it. They're oblivious to all of that. They were just having a great time, eating food, hearing music, running and falling on the grass, having a great time. That's why we do it. That's right. Okay, and then that was principle of nature, and then the pirate ride, the suggestion that free will is an illusion, very convincing one, and then maturity, the idea that we can be wise and be strong, and that together that's mature. Wise in remembering our past successes and failures. Maturity. And then the social principle, where we need one another. That's the type of animal we are. We're like bees and ants. We don't thrive without our hive. We can get by, but we don't thrive. I don't think ants can get by without their hive, without their nest colony. Then comes this public speaking, the reminder to use few words, carefully chosen words, and deliberate words, and to never ever gossip. And then temperance, and the sub-principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy. Temperance is a life of less, consuming less of everything, and doing less of everything, which yields a simple life and involves some suffering when we deny ourselves what we want. And then we can use apathy to handle the things that are outside of our control, that we have to temper our reaction. Apathy helps to facilitate the temperance of our emotions. And then after temperance comes the horror show. Life is an experience chock full of just absolute terror happening all around us. Not just to us, but to our pets and to the wildlife too, to the plants even. And that horror is coming for each of us, if it's not already there. How will we bear it? Temperance, maybe. And then the Feast of Offal. No, that which must be borne. We have to carry the fact of the horror show. We have to be adults and live with those facts. And we also have to carry the responsibilities that we've taken on and we've decided are our own. I can feel my spirit rising as I push through this. I felt like crap before I started the camera. But as I do this, as I push through, I feel myself rising. Something for fortitude, which is what Dr. Johnson would say. He would say any man can be a writer. Just do the damn writing. Push through it. Okay, next comes the Feast of Offal, which is the waste and byproduct of our upset. There was no danger of the feast yesterday. I mean, I wasn't enjoying the festival, but not very much at least. But I was in no danger of letting that fact be known to anybody else. I was fully intent and determined to keep it within myself, and I did. Far from any chance of breaking out the feast. The feast is when you get upset and let everybody know about it. I'm not enjoying this festival. I'm going to make sure all of you don't enjoy it too. You can do that in subtle ways or in very, very obvious ways. There was a time when I would have done that in more obvious ways. I think those days are past. The problem is that my wife can see right through me, and my daughter too. They know. I know that Yumiko knew what was going on inside me yesterday. And I think that and she was sensitive to that. But it's important to play along. I will look back one day in fond remembrance of yesterday. I know that for a fact. I can't tell you how many of the festivals in Japan I went to that I felt the same way that I now look back on. And I don't, if I push deep enough, I can pull out the remembrance of not enjoying it. But all I'm really left with is the happy memory of the family moments together. Like yesterday, we got ice cream and we sat on the grass. Yumiko and Emily got ice cream. We sat on the grass and we listened to the music. It was really good music. And I watched the children play and we ate the ice cream. And we made a memory that will be, when I look back, when I retrospect back on that in the future, I won't remember the fact that I didn't want to necessarily be there, unless I try. I will remember the eating the ice cream, standing at the little table with, Emily had her hot dog and Yumiko had her had her fried shrimp, and I had my little poke bowl that we each bought stuff from a different thing, and we talked a little bit. And the stories Emily Emily told us. I mean, she told us an interesting story. One of her coworkers at work, um, he describes himself as a super Christian, self-described, and he has made it his quest to save Emily. And she was telling us how his efforts yesterday, how he couldn't understand. He was so surprised. He just learned that she wasn't a Christian. He was so surprised because he said, she's such a good person. She's so nice. You know, how can you not be a Christian? And Emily was telling us really interesting things. I mean, she was trying to tell me that she was trying to explain to him the difference between, I can't even recall it right. I guess she was between cultural connection and religious connection. How some things are a part of a culture and some things are part of a religion. And I don't exactly remember the point, but she harkened back to Japan, and she was talking to him, sharing with him about her experience in Japan, with Shinto and the Shinto and Buddhist religions, and how those kind of, she was seeing the cultural and the religious. I gotta need to talk to her about that again, because I really want to understand what she was saying. Anyway, he basically, she said in the end, she basically told him, I'm not interested. You know, I understand this path. I mean, we sent her to Christian private school. She knew religious people. She's gone to church. She's gone to church with her friends before. Since she came back to America, you know, one of her Christian friends wanted to do the same thing, wanted to help Emily find her right. So she invited her in. Emily went for quite a while to church every Sunday. So she's been presented, and she's an adult, presented with the option, and she's an adult. She can make up her mind, and as she describes herself, she's without religion, and without a belief in God, which is kind of, the way I would describe myself as well. And it's funny because we never really talked about it growing up. I never really sat her down and said, okay, we're an atheist family or anything. That never happened. I don't even think I even described myself as an atheist. We just simply were a family that didn't have religion. And the very few times it ever came up, I would tell her very briefly my story that I was raised without religion. I became a Christian for a very short time. And then I've been without it all along. And then Yumiko, her mother would describe that she had basically, the way Yumiko describes it is that, being Japanese is her religion. I mean, if you know anything about the Japanese, they go through the motions, right? Both Buddhism and Shinto, there's no conflict there. Married by a Shinto priest, buried by a Buddhist priest, and no conflict whatsoever. And the Japanese are so interesting that way. So anyway, I really enjoyed Emily sharing that experience with her, and I asked her I said, you ought to invite that young man over. Actually, what I said was, because I love talking about this stuff, I love talking to the religious. I said, I'm going to come down, because he's a fellow server at the restaurant where she works. She's got a part-time job as a waitress, and I said, I'm going to come down there and get his table, and maybe I can talk to him, because I have all kinds of questions for him. Especially that bit about being good. Interesting. I would love to know more about his thoughts about how goodness, whence goodness comes. All kinds of stuff. Anyway, looking back, I was a good boy yesterday. That's a title. I was a good boy yesterday. Looking back, I will not remember if I had not been a good boy. I was tired. I was a little fed up with all the run around. Not even. I didn't even realize I was fed up. I really wasn't fed up. I actually kind of enjoyed the DMV and even going to the AAA twice. It was kind of interesting. I was just tired. It'd been a tough week, a long day. I was tired. I didn't want to stand around with a bunch of people. If I had let that come through, and my wife wanted a little socializing because she had had a tough week, she wanted to get out of the house. And Emily was enjoying it too. She was enjoying the booths and talking. There was this one booth and they had like these scents, right, for the bath things, whatever. And they were talking about all the scents, and Yumiko and Emily were really enjoying themselves. If I had spoiled that for them, that's what I would remember in the future. And I didn't spoil it for them. I didn't even get on my phone, which is another sign of distraction, of wanting to get away, right? I was very careful about that. I said, okay, Kurt, okay, you don't want to be here. We ate our food, but you don't want to be here. And I'm very careful. I'd bottle it all up. Good emotional reactions. I'd bottle it all up inside, engage in nice conversation. And then the girls started doing their thing, looking at all the booths that I had no interest in. And I said, okay, Kurt, I'm not going to go stand over here in the corner with my phone, because that sends a clear message. Look, there's a bit of grass over there. I'll go sit in the grass, and I'm not going to sit random up straight. I'm going to recline, and I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to put it down, and I'll wear a little grin, and I'll enjoy the music, and I'll deliberately pull thoughts out of the air, like Boswell and Johnson. Look at those children run. Is that really the end of things? Or maybe they are just the means by which the DNA gets jumbled up and tossed into another generation. And their parents over there, look at their serious faces. Look at that father over there. He's just like me. And I did that. And then before long, I was lost in thought. And before long, my gals appeared behind me with ice cream. And they sat down on the other side. And we ate the ice cream. And Yumiko asked me, I told them, I said, these guys, these are good, these musicians, they were good. These musicians are really good. And then the one musician, they were cover band. He said, here's a song of our own. And they started playing their song. And I liked the lyrics. And then a few songs in, Yumiko was asking me, do you know this band? And I said, I know the music, but I don't know who did it. We had a nice time. And then when we left, we got in the car. I deliberately didn't just make a beeline home. I thought, oh, we're in a part of Menifee we hadn't seen. Let's drive around a little bit. It was a nice evening. We just drove around a little bit. Wound up over in Sun City. Then we came home. And then when I got home, I took my shower and I collapsed. I just went downstairs, kissed my wife goodnight, and went to bed. That is a deliberate life. That's a deliberate living. I made a good use of the day yesterday. When I look back on last night, a decade hence, I will remember the music, the warm early summer air, the axe throw. I did a little axe throw. That was kind of fun. I'll plug that at the end of this, maybe. I got a bullseye. I'll remember the conversation with my family. Emily telling me about how her coworker was evangelizing her, and her considered response. Wow. It wasn't just, Emily's response to him wasn't just a visceral, talk to the hand. It was a considered, thoughtful's not the right word. reflective response. I can't find the word. I was really deeply impressed by the way that she had gone down an avenue that I had really never thought of in religion, in failing to see where the religious and the cultural combine or are separate. I'm gonna have to ask her, excuse me, about that again today. I'll remember my fortitude. I'll remember the warm grass, the children, and the nice drive afterwards, etc., etc. So yeah, I guess these principles work. Where was I before I went off on that long ramble? I think I was in, I did Temperance, the horror show, the That Which Must Be Borne. Oh, it was the Feast of Offal, right? Yeah, yeah. I kept it in. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. Then comes two principles: the principle of distraction and then agency. No, distraction and then agency and the great indifference. We spend our lives distracting ourselves from a universe apparently without God. Then comes the what? Oh yeah, the best seat in the house, to not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be okay with who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. Boy, that was by rote. All the while trying to make things better. And then the Path of Wildness, which is a way to move forward through life. Through one of the dogs is talking in his sleep. Then after the Path of Wildness comes the risk of avoiding risk, the surface level risks of education, career, family, or spouse, family, home, security, and then the deep risk of finding ourselves and building our identity, and collecting our story. A little treasure to hold within on the tough days that come when we're old. We'll have already had our adventure. And then the sin and damnation. My sins relate to being untrue, believing things that are untrue, and gossip. That's all. You'd think there'd be more. And to enumerate them, there are 7. These are falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, and gossip. The consequence of these sins is damnation in the here and now. Next comes complete oblivion. Since there is no God, since we do not have a soul, since we do not live, we do not exist forever, that means that after death, there's just oblivion. We will never see our loved ones again, or reunite, or have any chance to reconcile, and there will be no final justice. So, live well now. Next is the great life adventure, one or more experiences that really become the centerpiece of our life, the story, our story. It's good to have that young. I recommend just after you finish college, give yourself 5 years, all to yourself. Off you go. Don't even send a postcard. Off you go. Have a good time. Come back broken, bent, bruised, broke, and then start to build from there. You'll be quite rich inside if you survive. Just don't get anybody pregnant along the way. That really mucks things up early. Derails the adventure. And then, but if you do get someone pregnant, then bully for you. You get an opportunity to rise fast and rise early to the challenge of life. Good for you. You get an opportunity to live well. Lemonade from lemons? No. That is our first mandate after all. This is our only mandate. It is our purpose. It's just that the timing is a little off. You have to sacrifice something for that. But it's a quite worthy sacrifice. Okay. The season of philosophy. A time to record what we've learned along the way, what we found to be valuable. Then the bullseye aim, striving for the mark and missing. And then the uphill climb. I always race here, don't I? Up, step, 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 climbing up the mountain of life. Higher, higher, higher. Well, look at the view. Well, I'm above the clouds now. Ooh, it's dark up there. Arena and utility. Keeping our principles handy by our side to use in facing the challenges of the day. Nothing is enough. Another reminder to get by with less. Maybe nothing is too much, but it sounds good. And then finally, the principle of fun. A reminder to have a good time. To also remember that in the moment, the good times tend to be soiled a little bit with the real world. There's a more pure pleasure in hopeful apprehension, or hopeful anticipation of the future, and in pleasant, filtered retrospect of the past. So I try to enjoy all of three of them, right? It's really milk the first and the third, though, and do our best to tolerate and manipulate the present into a memory that we'll be glad to have. Like I did yesterday, I literally was manipulating the present, taking a situation that when I was 35, the situation would have mastered me. And yesterday, I was in control. And I built a memory in the present moment to be proud of and happy for. And to make a beautiful recollection for years and a decade yet to come. And also some good memories for my daughter to have. For hopefully a lot longer than a decade. Okay, so I think I did my due diligence with my Good Life Creed. Now let's plan for the day. I'm already feeling much better. Boy, this effort really turned things around. I'm going to get up now to start this video uploading. Go over to my Bible. I'll stand before my Bible and I will read Isaiah 33, I think it is, this morning. Then I will go downstairs. I'll feed the dogs. Won't feed myself. I'll just have a little snack. I'll eat breakfast with Yumiko later. Emily tends to sleep in. She has kind of an altered schedule. And then I'll begin the cleaning. I'll do my usual round of cleaning. After that, Yumiko will be, she and I kind of off kilter on our cleaning schedule, and then I use that off kilter time to read. And I'll catch up on my 10 pages, get my quota done. It's not like it's a quota that I don't enjoy. I do enjoy it. It's the thing I want to do, but I want to make sure I do it. Reading is like it's like working out, right? You know, if it's like jogging, right? If you do it every day, then you gotta just every day. But if you miss a day, then the next day it's gonna go. It's taken me a while to get to this point now that I can, I haven't reached the point that I can get lost in a book. I remember that a little bit when I was a teenager. I haven't been able to get back to that, but I can lose myself in a book. What's the difference? No, a book can draw me along. I can get to the point now that I'm not pushing my reading. The reading is pulling me along, and I guess the next step is to eventually one day the book will draw me in. But maybe the reason I don't get drawn in is the type of reading that I do. I don't read fiction really, and I don't read stories. I read biographies, and I do read some stories, but like it's a writerly type of reading. It's as they call it, where reading involves I have to participate in the process. So I can't just get carried away. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent. I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful day. Be safe, but not too safe. And I will plug right here at the end my 3 attempts at the axe. Or I think I can get through all 3 attempts, and then the third one I plugged it. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
I back up there. Yeah? Yeah. As you're getting closer where the pickup point is. Oh, okay. There we go. Nice. You just had to stick that foot forward.
Oh, yeah, you did. Okay. Thank you so much.